I had raised my granddaughter, Emma, for 12 years. Her mother had left when Emma was just a baby, and her father, Jack, had never been in the picture. Or so I thought. Emma's mother had been a free spirit, always chasing her dreams and never looking back. I had been the one to provide stability and love for Emma, and she had grown up to be a bright and beautiful young woman. She was the light of my life, and I would do anything to protect her. One day, out of the blue, Emma called me, crying. She told me that her father, Jack, had shown up at her doorstep, demanding $120,000 and a brand new Mercedes. I was taken aback. Where had Jack been all these years? And why was he suddenly demanding money and gifts from Emma? I asked her what she had said to him, and she told me that she had tried to explain that she didn't have that kind of money, but Jack just laughed and said that she was rich now and that she owed him. I was furious. Who did Jack think he was, showing up after all these years and demanding money from Emma? I told Emma I would take care of it. But what I found out next made my blood boil. I decided to investigate Jack's past, to see what he had been up to all these years. And what I found shocked me to my core. To be continued. I started by asking around, trying to find out what Jack had been doing all these years. I talked to old friends and acquaintances, but no one seemed to know much about him. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air. I decided to dig deeper, to see if I could find any records of Jack's past. I spent hours poring over old newspapers and searching online, but I couldn't find anything. It was as if Jack had never existed. Just when I was about to give up, I received a call from an old friend who had some information about Jack. She told me that she had seen him a few years ago, working as a mechanic at a local garage. I thanked her and decided to pay him a visit. As I arrived at the garage, I saw Jack working under a car. He looked up and saw me, and for a moment, we just stared at each other. I could see the recognition in his eyes, but he didn't say anything. I walked up to him and asked him what he was doing, demanding money from Emma. He just shrugged and said that he was entitled to it. I was furious, but I tried to keep my cool. I asked him why he had abandoned Emma and her mother all those years ago. He just laughed and said that he had been young and stupid, and that he had made a mistake. I didn't believe him. I pressed him for more information, but he just kept repeating the same story. I realized that he was hiding something, but I didn't know what. As I was about to leave, I noticed a piece of paper on his workbench. It was a receipt from a local hotel, and it had a date and time on it. I asked him what it was, but he just said that it was nothing. I took the receipt and put it in my pocket. As I was walking away, I heard Jack call out to me. He said that I would never find out the truth, and that I should just leave it alone. I didn't respond. I just kept walking, my mind racing with questions. What was Jack hiding? And what did the receipt have to do with anything? I decided to investigate further. I went to the hotel and showed them the receipt. They told me that Jack had stayed there for a few nights, but that he had checked out suddenly. I asked them if they knew why he had left, but they just shook their heads. I thanked them and left, my mind still racing with questions. As I was walking back to my car, I saw a woman watching me from across the street. She was standing in the shadows, and I couldn't see her face. But I could sense that she was watching me. I felt a chill run down my spine. Who was this woman, and what did she want? I tried to ignore her and get into my car, but she started walking towards me. As she approached, I saw that she was a woman in her mid-30s, with long brown hair and piercing green eyes. She introduced herself as Sarah, and told me that she had been watching me. I asked her why, and she said that she had information about Jack. She told me that she had known him for a few years, and that she had seen him arguing with someone. I asked her who it was, but she just shook her head. She said that she would only tell me if I promised to protect her. I agreed, and she started telling me a story. She said that Jack had been involved in some shady dealings, and that he had owed someone a lot of money. She said that he had been trying to pay them back, but that they had been demanding more and more. I listened, my heart racing with excitement. This was the break I had been looking for. I asked her if she knew who Jack owed money to, but she just shook her head. She said that she didn't know, but that she had seen Jack arguing with someone. She described the person, and I realized that it was someone I knew. My heart sank. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It seemed that Jack's past was more complicated than I had ever imagined. And I was starting to realize that I was in over my head. But I was determined to get to the bottom of things. I thanked Sarah and told her that I would protect her. I asked her to meet me again the next day, and she agreed. As I was walking back to my car, I felt a sense of unease. I knew that I was getting close to the truth, but I also knew that I was taking a risk. Jack was a desperate man, and I didn't know what he was capable of. But I was determined to see this through. I was going to find out the truth, no matter what it took. And I was going to make sure that Jack paid for what he had done. As I drove away, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being watched. I looked in the rearview mirror, but I didn't see anyone. I just saw the dark streets, stretching out behind me like a labyrinth. I knew that I was in for a long and difficult journey. But I was ready. I was ready to face whatever came next, and to fight for the truth. As I drove away, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being watched. I kept looking in the rearview mirror, but I didn't see anyone. I just saw the dark streets, stretching out behind me like a labyrinth. I knew that I was in for a long and difficult journey, but I was determined to see it through. The next day, I met Sarah again at a small cafe on the outskirts of town. She was nervous and jumpy, glancing over her shoulder every few seconds. I asked her what was wrong, and she told me that she had seen Jack watching her. She said that she was scared, and that she didn't know what he was capable of. I tried to reassure her, telling her that I would protect her. But I could see the fear in her eyes, and I knew that I had to do something to help her. I asked her if she knew anything else about Jack's past, and she hesitated. She told me that she had seen some documents, papers that Jack had left behind. She said that they were cryptic, but that they seemed to point to something big. I asked her to show me the papers, and she hesitated again. She told me that she had hidden them, and that she didn't know if she could trust me. I tried to reassure her, telling her that I was on her side. But I could see the doubt in her eyes, and I knew that I had to do something to prove myself. I asked her if she would meet me again the next day, and she agreed. I told her that I would bring someone who could help us. She looked at me curiously, but she didn't ask any questions. The next day, I brought a friend, a private investigator who had helped me in the past. He was a tall, imposing man with a stern expression. Sarah was intimidated at first, but he quickly put her at ease. He listened to her story, and then he asked her to show him the papers. Sarah hesitated, but then she pulled out a folder from her bag. She handed it to my friend, and he began to examine the papers. After a few minutes, he looked up and nodded. He told me that the papers were real, and that they pointed to a large-scale embezzlement scheme. I was shocked. I had suspected that Jack was involved in something shady, but I had no idea it was this big. I asked my friend what we could do, and he told me that we needed to go to the authorities. He said that we had enough evidence to bring Jack down, but that we needed to be careful. As we left the cafe, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. We were finally getting close to the truth, and I knew that justice was within our grasp. But I also knew that we were taking a risk. Jack was a desperate man, and he would stop at nothing to protect himself. As we walked away from the cafe, I noticed a car following us. It was a black sedan, and it was keeping a safe distance. I pointed it out to my friend, and he nodded. He told me that we were being watched, and that we needed to be careful. I felt a shiver run down my spine. We were getting close to the truth, but we were also getting close to danger. I knew that we had to be careful, but I also knew that we couldn't back down now. We had to see this through, no matter what. As we walked, the sedan kept following us. I could feel the tension building, and I knew that something was about to happen. I just didn't know what. Suddenly, the sedan swerved in front of us, blocking our path. I felt a jolt of fear, and I reached for my phone. But before I could do anything, the door opened, and a man stepped out. It was Jack. He was smiling, but his eyes were cold and hard. He told us that we were getting close to the truth, and that we needed to back off. He said that he would do whatever it took to protect himself, and that we were in danger. I felt a surge of anger, and I stepped forward. But my friend grabbed my arm, holding me back. He told me to wait, to let him handle it. I hesitated, but then I nodded. I knew that my friend was right. We couldn't afford to lose our cool now. We had to stay calm, and we had to see this through. As I stood there, frozen with tension, I knew that our journey was far from over. We were getting close to the truth, but we were also getting close to danger. I just didn't know what was going to happen next. My friend stepped forward, his eyes locked on Jack. He told Jack that we knew what he had done, and that we had evidence to prove it. Jack sneered, but I could see a flicker of fear in his eyes. My friend continued, telling Jack that he had two options: he could either come with us and face the music, or he could try to run. But if he tried to run, we would make sure that everyone knew what he had done. Jack snarled, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. He knew that he was beaten, but he was too proud to admit it. My friend took another step forward, his eyes never leaving Jack's face. He told Jack that he had 1 minute to decide what he wanted to do. If he didn't come with us, we would call the police and let them handle it. Jack looked at us, his eyes darting back and forth. He knew that he was trapped, but he was still trying to think of a way out. The silence was oppressive, the tension between us almost palpable. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, my senses on high alert. I knew that this was it, the moment of truth. Jack's eyes locked on mine, and for a moment, I thought I saw a glimmer of recognition. But then his face hardened, and he sneered at me. He told me that I would never take him down, that I was just a foolish old man. My friend stepped forward, his eyes flashing with anger. He told Jack that he had made a big mistake, that he had underestimated us. Jack's eyes widened, and he took a step back. But it was too late. My friend had already pulled out his phone, and he was dialing a number. Jack's eyes went wild, and he tried to run. But my friend was too quick. He grabbed Jack's arm, and he spun him around. Jack tried to struggle, but my friend was too strong. He pinned Jack against the car, his eyes blazing with anger. I stood there, frozen in shock. I couldn't believe what was happening. Jack was going down, and I had played a part in it. But as I looked at Jack's face, I saw something that made my blood run cold. I saw a look of triumph, a look that said he had one last trick up his sleeve. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, everything went black. I felt a blow to the head, and I stumbled backwards. I tried to regain my footing, but it was too late. I fell to the ground, my vision blurring. As I looked up, I saw Jack's face, his eyes gleaming with triumph. He had won, and I had lost. But as I looked deeper, I saw something that made my heart sink. I saw Sarah, standing behind Jack, a look of horror on her face. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, everything went black. I didn't know what was happening, or what would happen next. All I knew was that I was in grave danger, and that I had to get out of there as fast as I could. I struggled to my feet, my head pounding with pain. I looked around, trying to get my bearings. But everything was a blur. I stumbled forward, trying to find my way back to my friend. But he was nowhere to be seen. I was alone, and I was in grave danger. I knew that I had to get out of there, but I didn't know how. I stumbled forward, my heart pounding with fear. I didn't know what was happening, or what would happen next. All I knew was that I was in grave danger, and that I had to get out of there as fast as I could. I stumbled forward, my eyes scanning the surrounding area. I was disoriented and confused, but I knew I had to keep moving. I had to find my friend and get out of there before it was too late. As I walked, I noticed that the streets were eerily quiet. There were no people, no cars, no signs of life anywhere. It was as if the entire city had been evacuated, and I was the only one left behind. I quickened my pace, my heart racing with fear. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew it wasn't good. Suddenly, I heard a noise behind me. I spun around, but there was no one there. The noise had sounded like footsteps, but now there was only silence. I stood there for a moment, my ears straining to pick up any sound. And then, I heard it again. Footsteps. This time, they were louder, closer. I knew I had to move. I started to run, my feet pounding the pavement. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I had to get away from whoever was behind me. As I ran, the footsteps got closer and closer. I could hear heavy breathing, the sound of someone gaining on me. I pumped my arms harder, my legs burning with exhaustion. But I didn't dare look back. I knew that if I did, I would see something that would make my blood run cold. Suddenly, I saw a light up ahead. It was a small convenience store, its neon sign glowing like a beacon in the darkness. I burst through the door, slamming it shut behind me. I leaned against the door, my chest heaving with exhaustion. I had made it. I was safe. But as I looked around the store, I realized that I wasn't alone. There was a figure standing behind the counter, watching me. It was the store owner, a kind old man with a warm smile. But tonight, his smile was twisted and sinister. He was holding a phone, and he was speaking in a low, menacing tone. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I knew it wasn't good. I tried to move, but my legs were frozen in place. I was trapped, and I knew it. The store owner looked up at me, his eyes glinting with malice. He spoke in a low, raspy voice, his words sending chills down my spine. "You shouldn't have come here," he said. "Now you'll never leave." I tried to scream, but my voice was frozen in my throat. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move or speak. The store owner laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. And then, everything went black. I didn't know what was happening, or what would happen next. All I knew was that I was in grave danger, and that I had to get out of there as fast as I could. But as I lay there, my mind racing with fear, I realized that I was completely alone. My friend was gone, and I had no idea where he was. I was on my own, with no one to trust. And I knew that I had to find a way out of this place, before it was too late. But as I struggled to my feet, I realized that I was trapped. The doors were locked, and the windows were barred. I was a prisoner, and I had no idea how to escape. I looked around the store, my eyes searching for a way out. But there was none. I was trapped, and I knew it. And then, I heard the sound of footsteps. Heavy, deliberate footsteps, coming from the back of the store. I knew that I was in trouble, and that I had to get out of there as fast as I could. But as I turned to run, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A figure, standing in the shadows. Watching me. Waiting for me. And I knew that I was doomed. The figure didn't move, didn't make a sound. It just stood there, watching me with an unblinking gaze. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized that I was completely at its mercy. I tried to take a step back, but my legs were frozen in place. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move or speak. The figure didn't seem to notice. It just kept watching me, its eyes boring into my skin. I felt like I was being dissected, like I was being stripped bare and examined under a microscope. I tried to look away, but I couldn't tear my eyes from the figure. It was mesmerizing, hypnotic. I felt like I was being drawn into its gaze, like I was being pulled into a dark and endless abyss. And then, suddenly, the figure moved. It took a step forward, its eyes never leaving mine. I felt a jolt of fear, a surge of adrenaline that made my heart pound in my chest. I tried to run, but my legs were still frozen in place. The figure took another step forward, its eyes glinting with a malevolent intensity. I knew that I was in grave danger, that I was staring into the face of pure evil. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, everything went black. I was plunged into darkness, unable to see or hear anything. I was trapped in a void that seemed to stretch on forever. I tried to move, but my body was frozen in place. I was a prisoner of my own fear. And then, I heard a voice. It was a low, raspy voice, a voice that seemed to come from all around me. "You should have stayed out of this," it said. "Now you'll never leave." I tried to scream, but my voice was silenced. I was trapped in a living nightmare. And then, everything went black again. I don't know how long I was out. Time seemed to lose all meaning as I lay there, trapped in the darkness. But eventually, I came to. I was lying on the floor, my head pounding with pain. I struggled to my feet, my eyes scanning the room for any sign of the figure. But it was gone. The store was empty, the only sound the creaking of the old wooden shelves. I stumbled forward, my heart still racing with fear. I had to get out of there, had to find a way out of this nightmare. I stumbled through the store, my eyes scanning the shelves for any sign of a door. And then, I saw it. A small door, hidden behind a shelf. I stumbled towards it, my heart pounding with excitement. I was going to make it out of there, was going to escape. And then, I heard the voice again. "You'll never leave," it said. I spun around, but there was no one there. The voice seemed to come from all around me, echoing off the walls. I knew that I was in grave danger, that I was being watched. And then, I saw it. A figure, standing in the doorway. Watching me. Waiting for me. I knew that I was doomed. I stood there, frozen in terror, as the figure began to walk towards me. I knew that I was trapped, that there was no escape. But as the figure drew closer, I saw something that made my heart skip a beat. It was Jack, the man who had ruined my life and destroyed my family. He was standing there, a smug look on his face, as if he had won. But I knew that he hadn't won. I knew that he had just been playing a game that he was about to lose. As Jack drew closer, I saw the store owner standing behind him, a look of shock on his face. I realized that he had been in on it with Jack all along, that they had been working together to destroy me. But it was too late now. The game was over, and I was about to win. I took a deep breath, and then I spoke. "You think you've won," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "But you haven't. You've just been playing a game that you're about to lose." Jack sneered at me, but I could see the fear in his eyes. He knew that I was right, that he had just been playing a game. And then, I saw it. The police, bursting into the store, guns drawn. They had been watching us the whole time. They had been waiting for the perfect moment to strike, and now they had it. Jack and the store owner were caught in their own trap. They were going to pay for what they had done, and I was going to be the one to make them pay. As the police took Jack and the store owner away, I felt a sense of satisfaction, a sense of justice. I had won, I had finally won. I had fought for my family, for my life, and I had come out on top. I walked out of the store, into the bright sunlight, feeling like a new man. I knew that I still had a long way to go, that I still had to rebuild my life. But I was ready. I was ready to face whatever challenges came my way, ready to fight for my family and my life. And as I walked away from the store, I knew that I would never forget this moment of justice. I would never forget the feeling of satisfaction, of victory. I would never forget the look on Jack's face, the look of shock and fear. And I would never forget the feeling of finally being free, finally being able to move on with my life. I had won, and I was ready to start again. As I walked away from the store, I felt a sense of peace, a sense of closure. I knew that I had finally found justice, finally found the peace that I had been searching for. And as I looked up at the sky, I knew that I was finally free, finally able to move on with my life. I had won, and I was ready to start again.